Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home, the show dedicated to helping veterinarians, vet techs, dog trainers, shelter and rescue workers, pet sitters, and all the other animal crazy pet professionals manage their stress and find more joy. I'm your host, Colleen Pilar, and I'm thrilled you're here with us today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your favorite app so that you won't miss a single episode. This episode is brought to you by our free community, the Circle of Resilient and Thriving Pet Professionals. If you like the ideas shared here, then you're invited to continue the conversation with other lifelong learners in the community. You can find out more at colleenpilar.com. It's the perfect place for you to learn cool stuff, feel good, and take action to create the life you love. Come join us. Welcome back to Unleashed at Work and Home. My guest today is Yvonne Rosenberger, and she is the owner of Marietta Heart Hounds in Georgia. Welcome, Yvonne. I'm glad to be talking to you today.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited.
Let's start with your business name, Marietta Heart Hounds. What does that mean to you?
Well, when I was thinking of a name 11 years ago for my company, I wanted to somehow include my dachshunds in it. And the only thing I could think of, even though a dachshund is not a hound, is using hounds, dachshunds, dachshunds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that came about. And I live in Marietta. So not extremely difficult. But
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. And yeah, Dachshund has the hound in there. So tell us about what kind of work you do, Marietta Heart Hounds.
we do dog walking and pet sitting, which includes the midday dog walks, the Monday through Friday dog walks for people who work, or some people are at home, and also includes vacation clients. We also offer overnights to certain clients, not all clients. So those are the basic things that we offer.
Those are important services. Those are very important services.
I agree.
So a question that I always like to ask is sort of, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up? Because I find it fascinating how our paths lead us to these spots over time. So when you were 10, what did Yvonne think she was going to do with her life?
I was going to be a stewardess because that's
awesome.
what they were called back then. I'm just aging telling everyone how old I am. Yes, I was going to be a stewardess or a veterinarian.
Okay. Very similar careers. So much overlap.
Absolutely.
And so then what happened? You graduated from high school and?
The parents thought that I should go to college. So I did that. Off and on. I worked mostly and went to college sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was waiting tables, and then I worked at managed bookstores. And then I dropped out of college for a while, worked at a hospital for 5 years, went back to college for a little while, finished. And yeah, by that time I was in my late 20s, because who knows what they really want to do when they're 18 or 19.
Yeah. I mean, the number of options you can envision then are so small. And of course, things are always changing. So you managed a bookstore and you worked at a hospital and then you went back to college. And then
part-time to finish up. Yeah.
Then what? So you get out of college and you are suddenly a stewardess.
No.
No. Oh, okay.
Well, then I'm coming up against 30, and I start working for the health and life insurance industry, which out of everything else I've done I never wanted to work in an office, but here I was, of course. So my motto is never say never, ever. So I did that for almost 15 years or a little bit more. It was very I enjoyed some of it, but as I got older, it just became, I had to not do it anymore. Just a soul sucking kind of feeling that I don't want to die behind a desk.
Yeah. What were the parts you enjoyed?
After I moved to Georgia with the same company, I started doing meetings at companies to explain all of their benefits to them. And I really enjoyed doing those meetings just because you got to know a lot of people, you get to be yourself. I really was able to like stand in front of a whole room full of people and they would ask questions, I would answer them. Some people were very amenable to all this and some people not so much. And I would be called names and that was always fun too because, health insurance and we know all about that. It's even worse today. So
Yeah.
yes.
So
But
you did that for 15 years and it was soul sucking.
yeah, especially towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to the broker side of things, and which is not much different, but a little bit worse than the actual insurance company side of things. And I just it was not a good fit for me. And I decided at 49 that I was going to start my own business. It was a friend of mine who said, "You need to start a pet sitting business." So I took a whole year to think about it because that is my MO, tough making decisions. And I helped out my pet sitter on weekends. And then I got my website up, I got business cards, and I worked for two other sitters for the first year until I got up and running for myself.
Why did your friend say a pet sitting business? What was it about you that made the friend go, this?
There was something very specific. She says, "Yvonne, for the last forever years, I've called you when I have a problem with my pet, like whether they're sick, whether they're doing something, whether they ran away, or they're in the pound and you have to help me go get them. And you're always there for that. And you always know what to say and what to do." And I never thought of that before,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought it was a good idea. And I'm like, well, let's try it. And here I am 11 years later with 7 employees.
Yep.
Um, hasn't always been fun. Sometimes it's not so much fun, especially when you have employees because they have lives and things happen and cars break down. And yeah. So,
You took a year to think about it
yes.
and you decided, yes, I'm going to do it. And
Right.
when you decided you were going to do it, what did you envision your business looking like as compared to what it is today?
I truly thought that it would just be me,
Mm-hmm.
that I would stay solo. But then I got busier, and one of my clients used to be a pet sitter for someone else. So I brought her on to help me with overflow and weekends and everything. And it got even busier. And then I hired someone else. And you just wake up one day and you have 5 employees and you're going, how did this happen? How did I get here? I'm really not sure. So yeah, it's a journey. I feel like pet sitting is one of those things for people like me, at least, who are big picture people that just kind of happen. And I didn't plan to have employees. I didn't plan to have, a big company and make 6 figures. None of that was planned. It just all happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people start out with a plan and they do all that. And that was, yeah, I'm not one of those people. It
Not one of
probably
those.
would have helped me, but it would not have been as much fun and as crazy as some of it was. So
Yeah. Well, you had said earlier, don't want to die behind a desk. And so this clearly gets you out.
right.
How does it feel to have noticed that? Because you were at an age where at 49, I think that some people would have argued, oh, just stick it out. like, stick it out. And you said, no, I'm going to go start something totally new.
Right.
I'm not going to die behind a desk. How does it feel to know that you heard that call and followed it?
It feels good because there have been times throughout the years that I've thought, do I want to keep doing this? But what else would I do? And then I thought about insurance and I just thought, I cannot work for someone else again. I cannot do that. It's way past that time. So I won't die behind a desk. But I might die bald from pulling my hair out. I don't. It's just one of those things.
What has surprised you most about owning your own business?
Nothing really, because I never wanted to. I never thought I would own my own business. And I said many years ago, I'm never going to run my own business because you never get time off, you never get a vacation, never, never, never. And I was right. You really have to work at taking time off. You really have to make it that you just schedule your weekends off, period, and just put everyone else on. I mean, it's definitely a process to get to that point of allowing other people to be actual employees. My issue is I've always felt like, well, they don't want to do every weekend. Oh, I feel bad scheduling them on Friday night. Or, oh, they only have one visit. That's terrible. And I'm slowly getting over that. I'm past 50%, so that's a good thing. But I do fall off the wagon sometimes and think that way still. I think that's just kind of goes along with having a big heart and being a nurturing person kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is start all that in the beginning so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And adopt some perspectives that allow flexibility for other people's experience, because some people could be thrilled with just one visit, like,
Absolutely.
oh, I've just got one. Awesome. Oh, I just got Friday nights, which is great because then I have the weekend free, but I've got a little money or whatever,
Exactly.
like it could be very different for different people, how some of that plays out. But yes, we do tend to ascribe thoughts to others based on what we might feel in that experience.
Yes. And that is a big mistake because I've had no one complain. So another lesson learned in life.
So many lessons. Isn't life grand that way?
Lessons. Right. Exactly.
Well, I always ask my guests to share some words that have meaning to them, and you have already shared the words that have meaning to you twice, which means these are pretty meaningful words to you. Which your words are never say never. And then when you first said them in this call, you said never say never, ever, which seemed particularly emphatic. I loved that. So tell me a little bit about never say never. When did that come into your awareness, and what does it actually mean for you?
With my life experiences, I was never going to get married. I was never going to have kids. And I was going to never run my own business. Now, I did stick to the not having the kids, but I did get married and I am running my own business. But even for the smaller things in life, whenever I say, oh, that's never going to be, I'm always wrong. So I just that word needs to leave my vocabulary. And that's just what I've found throughout my life is whenever I think it's never, then it shows up.
Yeah.
So if it's something that you don't want to show up, then just don't say never.
And the piece you had about some of your fears for having your own business included some nevers too. Like, I'll never have weekends off. And to adopt that perspective of never say never gives you some flexibility to change that too. Like to question those beliefs and puncture them a little bit. Like, I'll never be able to take a break. I'll never be able to have weekends off.
Well, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy if you're not careful. If you're not aware and you don't look at yourself for who you really are and why you think this way and why you do certain things, then it's a self-fulfilling process. I'm sorry, self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I have sort of done the deep dives and taken a good look at who I am and what my needs are and who I might want to be in the future. And just trying to get a better way to stay positive and not say so many negative things. And for me, that's kind of hard because I'm a very aggressive driver.
Okay. So we don't want to be around you on the road because we might
No,
hear those
no.
negative things that you say.
If you see me in my car when there's something going on with traffic, I'm very animated. Yeah, very animated. So I need to just stop and say to myself, okay, this doesn't need to be. I don't need to ruin my day because of one person that's not driving the way I think they should be. Just chill.
Just chill. Yeah. Easier said than done.
Yes, it is.
What has helped you with that?
When I moved here to Georgia, I knew the traffic was going to be bad. And for a long time, I drove in the traffic to work and back. And I mean, it would be like, 7 miles took 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got used to that. But the biggest thing is just being aware of how I react. And being aware of how I react allows me to stop myself. And I think that's really important to be able to do if you have my kind of personality that's just kind of number one, all over the place. And number two, you can kind of go into the negative, not so nice mode. It's important for me to be able to just stop and think about it for a second.
What has given you that level of self-awareness? Because you've talked about this a number of times, so like knowing yourself and knowing who you are and being conscious of your tendencies. Have you always been somebody who's been curious about your inner workings?
It started out with having to do some therapy in my early years from family stuff. And I, in grade school and high school, I stuttered fairly badly. And as I got more confidence, that kind of went by the wayside. It still comes up. It never goes away 100%. But I became more confident. And once I built my confidence and got out into the world, I kind of did look at myself when I was turning 30 and just said, who are you and where are you going and what are you doing? And just throughout the years, I've had some help of all sorts. And I just think as a person who has been introspective and honest with myself about who I am, that has helped me escape being stuck. So I don't feel like I'm stuck in the same world over and over again or for like the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people aren't, they're afraid to do that. They're afraid to look at themselves and be honest with themselves. And they don't get free from that. So for me, it's very important to stay that way and remind myself continually that it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Nobody's dying or bleeding to death. That's another one of my sayings. Nobody's dying or bleeding to death. Everything's fine. You ran into a garage, not a problem. It'll be fixed. So yes.
I like the introspective and honest. I think those are traits that are difficult and scary at times for people. And what's interesting is when people are willing to do it, so often the result is actually compassion and more confidence and more comfort with their own experience. And I guess the fear is that when we look inside, we might find we're not enough. But when we actually do, we find that we're just human like everyone else. But there are things that we can do, and it's all fine. Nobody's dying. Nobody's bleeding. It's
Right.
okay.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that the thing of not feeling like that we're enough, which I've had often throughout my life, I think it's one of those things that we personally have to look at because it's usually something within us. It's not
Mhm.
everyone around us that makes us feel that way.
Mhm.
We take what they're saying and doing and we make ourselves feel that way because of it.
Mhm.
And that's something I work on a lot still today. Because when you're people pleasing, it's difficult not to take things so personal.
Yeah. And our filter for how we receive these kinds of messages is set so young that we don't even know that it's not entirely accurate and that it's not the same as everyone else's. So people can say things to us completely innocently and we can hear them as a criticism or a judgment, and they aren't, or they weren't intended to be. They are because our brain has done that to us, but it is not necessarily the accurate experience on both sides.
Right. And it's even like I would get worried if my boss walked by my office door and didn't say hello to me. Oh my goodness, what did I do? I mean, literally, I would
Mhm.
ask, what did I do? And I'd get very anxious. And that's a terrible thing because it really, the world does not revolve around us individually.
Mhm.
And that's something else that I think that we don't think about often. And I've had people say that to me, which is good because it's like, you're right. You're absolutely right. The world does not revolve around Yvonne, and just move on. And then none of it's easy. Sometimes it's not fun being honest with yourself and saying things to yourself like, yeah, I'm just going to accept the fact that my desk is messy, but I know where everything is, and that's okay.
Mhm. Well,
And
that's a much more comfortable feeling thought than, "What a slob I am. My desk is messy. Why can't I ever get anything organized?"
right,
Which is another way we could interpret it, and
right.
your way allows for compassion and acceptance and growth and actually acknowledging that you do know where everything is.
And it's more stressful thinking, oh, I should clean this up. Oh my goodness, look at my desk. Oh my goodness. Those times are just like, oh my gosh, I don't care. And if I'm can't find something that probably wasn't needed anyway. If you wait long enough, you don't need it anymore. So
Tell me what it's like to be the manager of a team of employees, because so many pet professionals are solopreneurs, but it requires an extra level of communication and awareness to be managing a team.
right.
Tell me what that's like for you.
Well, I managed a bookstore for 6 years in my 20s. And I learned so much about the managers that were older than I was because they wanted to keep everything to themselves. They didn't want to share it with anybody. They didn't want to delegate to anyone. And I learned early on that that's bad.
Mhm.
And I'm a people person. And so for me, it's just about I really want to treat my employees like human beings who have lives. And if they're sick, then they're sick. If they call out because their child is sick, then they have to do that. I mean, I don't begrudge people that, and I don't not let them do I don't say anything bad to them about it. And I tell them that when they're hired because I mean, if you want days off, I'll give you those days off. Now, I only have a staff of 6 or 7 usually. It's not like a staff of 50 where you do have to have more rules and you do have to be more strict about things like that. But that's the reason I don't want something that large because then I have to be the bad guy. I don't like being the bad guy. So, I just had an employee tell me the other day, she really appreciated the way that I talk to her when she's done something that like she's forgotten to do something, and I remind her of that. Because in other situations, she's gotten more negative feedback from people. So my thing is to always be real, be honest, and don't let it get the best of you. They're human beings. I had one employee call me one day and said, Yvonne, I ran into the client's garage door. And I started laughing. And she's like, why are you laughing? I just said, "Oh, how did you do this? That's why I just can't imagine how you did this." And she thought her car was in park and it wasn't. So I said, don't worry about it. I'll come over and look at it in just a few minutes. And, I let the client know. I said, call whoever you need to call to replace it and we'll pay for it. And she was amazed that I didn't get mad. But I mean, what is it going to do to get mad? I mean, all it's going to do is hurt myself to get mad.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my view on, dealing with employees. Just be nice to them and they'll be nice to. The better you treat your employees, the better work they do for you.
Yeah.
That in my book is a proven fact.
Yeah. And no one would ever intentionally run into the garage door.
No.
Like,
No,
it's just
at
not
all.
something somebody would do where they're like, you know what I think I'm going to do right now? Just curious.
Right, exactly.
What would happen if, yeah, anyone who has to call you and tell you that that happened, it was an accident. I mean, there are reasons, it could be an inattention piece that we wish they had been paying attention, whatever, but it was not a deliberate act of malice or of awfulness. It's just, oh, wow, someone being human and had a
Right.
moment.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's it's just so important to just remember we are all human and we do make mistakes. I make mistakes. And I tell them, if I've been at that client and you show up and I left the door unlocked, which I mean, I'm human, it's happened. You need to let me know that. And don't feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I am not a manager. My employees don't know each other. So I've not ever had any get-togethers or anything. I know a lot of people like the team thing, and for some reason I've just not ever done that. And they don't see each other's schedules. They don't see the whole schedule. They don't cover themselves by calling other sitters because I feel like that's my job, not their job. And also because I feel like honestly, there's less tensions that way. There's less, oh, well, she got these visits, or oh, well, she's always asking for time off. And, it just gets really kind of hairy sometimes when you let everybody know what everybody else is doing.
That's true. I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, there is definitely an element of that because our brains are story making machines.
Right.
And so when we hear or see things that we don't understand, we make up a story about them, whatever that
Right.
might be. So what do you like best about your job?
I like having relationships with my clients and their pets. I like when they look to me
Mm-hmm.
for help with their pet. I really enjoy educating people about, how to take care of their pet. If their pet is older, the things that they might need. I've had a couple people who have older, large dogs, and they're just slipping around. I said, why don't you just get some cheap yoga mats? I said, it's not going to be aesthetically pleasing, but your dog will love you for it. And I've never thought of that. So, and I love it when I help people potty train a puppy, even when they're against crate training and they do it anyway. They're happy they did it.
That's a lot.
So,
Yeah.
eh, and I really do love the animals. I mean, I have my favorites, of course, that I've had over the years and built relationships with. Um, the hard part is when those animals pass away. And in the last month, I've had
Mm-hmm.
5 client dogs pass away. And that has been, it's been a lot. That's a lot in that short time period. So, um, and I love it when they ask me to come over and say goodbye. I think it's so important for me. And sometimes I just sometimes know that'll be the last time I see them and I say goodbye. So even though those are sad times, it's still a part of my job that I love.
Yeah. I love that you go. I think that for some people, it'd be more protective to not go, and for others, it's more protective and healing to go. Um, and it's nice that for you that you can go and that you can have that experience. And it's probably really profound for the people too, to know that their dog, you know.
They really appreciate it. I had one client that was on vacation, and her dad had just passed away, so she had her dad's dog, and her dad's dog got really sick. I had to take it to the vet. They kept the dog for a couple days, and she called me. She said, "We're just going to have him, unfortunately, put to sleep." I said, "I would like to go and be with him," and she cried. And I just would not even think about not offering that because I don't want a dog to be alone, you know. And I had another one who was coming back the next day, but the dog had a spleen tumor, was not doing well. She made the arrangements, and I went over to the house and met the people, and I helped that dog, over the Rainbow Bridge as well. I've had a lot of my own animals, so it's nothing that I love to do, of course. It's hard, but I feel like if it's the right time, then it's certainly worthwhile for me to do it. Just for
I've been with a few client dogs at the end too. And of course my own animals. And it's so hard, but also it is really kind of beautiful and important and meaningful to be there and to be with them. Now you're going to make me cry. So.
No, I'm sorry. I think it's just one of those things that they give us so much. They really deserve for us to be able to make that decision for them in the end. Because very few dogs make that decision, on their own and just pass away at home. And it is hard. But last year I had 2 senior animals of my own. And they were I had a 17-and-a-half-year-old dachshund and a 19-year-old cat. And yes, I'm sad that they're gone, but it was time. And people are like, "Oh, you don't seem upset." I said, No, I'm sad, but they were old. You can't, they're not going to be here forever. And quality of life is more important than anything for me for an animal. I'm actually more relieved sometimes when it's over because then my stress and my anxiety about it just immediately is like, oh, just kind of just melts away as well.
I think that's one of the hardest pieces for all of us is that we have so many animals that we love that don't live in our house. Like that there's pieces of our heart in other houses and other households and other experiences and it does hurt when something happens to them. They're having an experience that's an illness or a discomfort or end of life. Any of those things hurts us too. And it's, to use the psychology term, disenfranchised grief. Like nobody makes space for, well, I wonder how the pet sitter is feeling about this. No, the actual family with whom you have a relationship might a little bit, but your friends and family aren't thinking like, oh, are you sad about that one of your clients died this week? That's not something that our surrounding people are often conscious of, and certainly not something your neighbor would think of, like, oh.
Well, they still think that what I do is hobby, so.
Well, it is a hobby. It's a nice little hobby that you've got that's employing 7 people and taking care of lots of animals in Marietta, Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah. Aren't you ever going to get a real job again, Yvonne?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Not ever.
Not in my future, sorry.
Although never say never, apparently, is our theme, so.
I just said it's not in my future. I didn't say.
I did. You are wise. I fell into the N word.
So yeah, it's definitely it took my family a long time to just say, "Oh wow, we're really proud of you for you've had this company now for 7, 8, 9, 10 years." I'm like, "Yeah, still doing it.
Still doing it. Yeah.
Still paying my own bills. I haven't asked them for any money."
That's good. That's good. That's another thing that comes up for people sometimes, about, like, is this a career or just sort of a job? So, like, you have a business, and this is your business. You're still doing it, and, um, years ago when I was training dogs, I got asked by a client, "Aren't your parents disappointed that you're wasting your college education?" And I was shocked and laughed and said, "No." But the third time I was asked, I called my mother, and I was like, "Are you disappointed that I'm wasting my?" 'Cause I did not feel like I was in any way wasting my education, and my team at All About Dogs was pretty highly educated. Like, we had a lawyer on staff, we had people with master's degrees, I was sort of the one with just the bachelor's, and it was this experience of like, "Oh," and I have a couple of clients who have degrees from prestigious schools and have experienced that as well, where someone's like, "Well, isn't that a waste of a degree from prestigious school?" But is it? Is it? Like, is any experience ever wasted? And these are real careers, and they require, creative problem solving and all of us. They require all the elements of us, our intelligence, our emotional bandwidth, all of the aspects of what makes you you. But from that perspective, like, what are your thoughts, for any pet professionals who may get some pushback on whether or not what they're doing is real, like a real job?
And when they first start, they probably will get pushback. I know that my family would sometimes say things, and I just tell them, I'm like, "Look, I'm making money, I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I'm taking care of myself. Is that not considered a job? Like, what is so different from what I'm doing, walking dogs, than if I were sitting in an office?" I mean, yes, there are differences. I don't have benefits,
And you get
but
wet when it rains.
um, you have to get wet when it rains. You pick up dog poop. I mean, there are differences, but service industry jobs have always been looked down upon and still are by a lot of people. And you just have to let it roll off your back. Because if you're happy doing it, and if you're making a decent living and you're taking care of yourself, that's all that's
Mhm.
important. That's really, truly all that's important.
Yeah. That leads into the next question pretty well, which is, if you had a magic wand and you could bless us all with your wish for us, what would you give us? All of the pet professionals out there. What's your wish for us?
Listen to your intuition or your gut or whatever you want to call it, because it's usually right.
I agree completely.
Notice that if you don't listen to it, what happens? And my experience is, if I don't listen to it, if the side of myself that overrides my intuition says, "Oh, we're going to squelch you down. We don't want you to be doing. You don't need to be doing that." There's always regret involved. And stick to your guns, which is kind of the same thing. Stick to your guns. Do what you believe is right for you and for your client.
Awesome. Thank you. We will take that wish and absorb it. Appreciate that. So if people wanted to learn more about you and your work, Yvonne, how could they do that?
They could email me at sit@mariettahearthounds.com. And I do have a Facebook page for my business as well, where they could message
Okay.
me. I don't know the address to that.
I will link to it in the show notes. To your website and your Facebook page. I will link to them in the show notes. It has been such a pleasure talking with you today. It's been fun.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun and just a nice conversation on a Tuesday afternoon.
Exactly. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. You have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Unleashed at Work and Home. I invite you to come learn more at colleenpilar.com, where you can be steady, be strong, and be long.